practices in the built sector. Recently, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu engaged with stakeholders in the built environment sector, urging them to harness advanced technology and innovative practices capable of withstanding climate change and other unforeseen challenges. Now, this change is a fundamental shift that is taking place in the construction world. How will this, impact the way constructions are handled, managed, and delivered? This and more. We'll get answers to these questions as the conversation progresses. Our guest is Dr. Moses Ogunleye. He is the Managing Director of MOA Planners Limited. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. So talking about transition from the traditional to the innovative building practices, first of all, what does that really mean? And also, it is a fundamental shift, like I said earlier. How are the stakeholders in the built sector here in Nigeria accepting that?
Well, okay, it's not a entirely new concept. I like the one you raised. How are we, as stakeholders, that accepted that innovation? We are adopting it or accepting it slowly because of, every transition requires some financial commitment, a shift even in your philosophical thought. But essentially, we have to migrate to that. Otherwise, it will be pounds, money, pounds foolish, and penny wise. If you don't do that, you're going to incur more cost. And we're looking at resilience. It means there are better ways you can do things. Whenever there are shocks or stresses, that investment will cope. There have been new technologies. How are we looking at that? There have been new funding options. How are we looking at that? Then even budgeting. That's from the public sector angle. If I know a new budget system will allow me to invest, I will probably bring my investment to Lagos. So those are the things we should look at. It's slow, but I know we can get there.
Okay. I like the fact that you said it's not entirely new, but what may seem like new is the pace at which stakeholders are, taking on the challenge and adapting to this. If you're looking at the built sector and looking at, innovative practices, green building and sustainability is also one of the new things that we're saying. Is that something that we've started embracing here in Nigeria?
Well, there have been talks about it. Even I'm sure in the COP conference that's going on, people will mention it. Green building, yes, and it's about the efficiency of the totality of that building, from power that we consume to the ventilation that you enjoy to the construction process. If the building can recycle itself, that's part of it. So we should be looking at that, but there must be regulations that support that system. There should be standards that support that system. In fact, there could be reward. There should be reward. If your building is greener or made green, what benefit do you get? If you are rated to be better, what benefit
like incentives.
do you get? Exactly. If I'm rated better, if I need funding for other projects and that building is assessed, if I go to bank, will I likely be rated better than somebody who's bringing a collateral that doesn't have green, that is not friendly? These are big greenness. So I share those beliefs. Our system must be made available at a global and Nigerian level. There are talks, there are initiatives. But in real terms, some of us, you may not have been seeing them. There's what they call climate financing. In other words, if your project address such issue, then you are rated better, and you are seen to be conscious of want to conserve the environment. You are seen to be energy friendly. You are seen to be sustainability friendly.
Okay. Let's look at the economic implications of this innovative practices now. What impact does it have on project cost? Do we have long-term return on investment? Will it also address affordable housing challenges?
Well, any new technology, any innovation that doesn't improve returns on investment and doesn't enhance social value, doesn't improve equity and inclusivity, then is zero. So let's look at it from the financial angle. If every new design should say I can construct better, I can do this within a shorter period of time, the total cost, even if it's high a bit or the same, other companies like maintenance of that building should be lower. How does it withstand shocks in case there is tremor, which we usually don't have, or serious wind that could damage the buildings? Because you didn't prepare for the wind. If there's a damage, it means you must address it immediately. So every design, every construction process that look at that will be rated as good. So ultimately, if we have more of that, the cost of construction should go down. Our buildings should stand better. Innovation will be, to due respect to my friends who are in the paint industry, you could say I should apply this, it will last, it should do 10 years or 5 years without using the broad, external work system. So it should bring down the cost, if really, because that's what you're going to use to defend that innovation, that you will save such an amount of money or naira if you apply this process. For maintenance, it's cheaper. For all components, power supply, materials for construction, plumbing works, and other services. I agree we can achieve that if people, I say it again, are a little bit not
receptive,
not accepting it. They are conscious, but if we have more people accepting, even government can start the process. Be ready to bury the car, so to say. I'm starting before everybody starts. I don't mind. I want to showcase that if you start, it's better. Maybe other developers will follow.
Okay. One other area that this discussion has brought up is modular and prefabricated construction. And I know that I've seen a couple of prefabricated construction. There's one close to us here in Alausa, just by the express on the right there. But then a lot of Nigerians will also look at that, and perhaps the first thing that will come to their mind is, oh, when there's a fire, what happens to something like this? But I think awareness is key, and a lot of people perhaps do not even understand what we mean by prefabricated, and maybe that's why it's slow to embrace such things. If you'd like to take us through, when you say prefabricated, what exactly are we looking at? What kind of material are we talking about here when it comes to building and constructions?
Prefab is good, it has its own value. The principle is that you are able to produce that building within a shorter time. It's the best in time saving.
Okay.
Now, why are you doing, what does prefab mean? You have some components that have been put together elsewhere, and you're bringing it to a site to just assemble.
Okay.
I mean, it's faster, it should be cheaper. But why we have not had much of that here is because we don't have developers that can deliver 1,000, 2,000 units.
Okay.
The one you are referring to, maybe less than 50. So if you have more people that want to develop, I was at a forum on Friday and I said, not even in this country, we don't have a developer that can do 1,000 units in 1 year.
Okay.
We still don't have. So assuming we have a developer that can do 2,000 units, he or she, because 2,000 units, and if 70% are about to pay, 50% are paid complete, 30% are paid half for a percentage, you know that if I paid, I'm on you to deliver.
Right.
You probably embrace prefabs, and it makes sense when you do prefab. As I said, you are within a short time, you're able to, and when you mass produce, the unit cost goes down.
Right.
And as an investor, a developer, you're happy that ultimately the unit cost goes down. But I think even as an investor, you are also careful of the issue of safety. I mean, because if there is a little fire and the entire property get burnt,
Right.
people will make reference to it. That, I mean, that that's what they call fire resistance. So every of those prefab components should have high fire resistance.
Right.
If there is fire, there will be damage, but not a damage that
Will raise it
consume the entire
totally.
building. We rate it in, it is rated in 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Before fire comes, the damage is not much. So let's have more people who can produce more buildings. You may not benefit essentially if you are using prefab for 10 units.
Okay.
But 100, 200, 500, it looks like you are making a joke. You've done the roads, and the buildings are just coming up as if you are playing you are building a house, the one we built when we were younger. You build in 10 minutes. I built my house.
But for for prefabs, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what exactly are they talking about when they're saying prefab. Are bricks used for prefab?
Yeah, you can use bricks.
You can actually use bricks.
So, for instance, you've done some components.
Okay.
And then your window have been just put it there because you are fixing. But usually is the one we call the mold, the casting that is usually embraced. In bricks, the one you call decking, which we call slabs, will have just been put there and you are arranging. So for bricks, for instance, for slabs, you don't need to bring in 50, 100 workers.
That will cast overnight.
Cast overnight. On that stitch, you know that people have the stitch. But if you are using prefab, you just bring in and assemble as if you are playing chairs. You are putting them together, and in a few
hours,
depending on the number, in a few hours or few days, the entire slab is ready. You move on again, and there are a lot of technologies that can allow us to deliver within a shorter time. But if you don't have large number, you may not benefit from that technology.
You're going to spend more.
You may not benefit. It cost you more. Even if you go to import some components, imagine to bring them in, the cost of
bringing them into the country.
You need to be sure of that source of supply. If they fail, your schedule, the time of completion, for instance, will also be affected, and ultimate cost of delivery of that product, housing in this case, or building in this case, will change.
Okay.
All right. You said something that a lot of people are not embracing this innovation, and or not that they are not embracing, but they are slow to embrace the innovation. But again, let's look at the regulations and policies surrounding this sector. How effective are the current building regulations in supporting this innovative construction practices? And then what policy changes would you like to see that will accelerate people embracing this innovation?
Well, interestingly, our policies and regulation support this kind of innovation. Let's start with the biggest one, the father of the regulations, which is the National Building Code. There is an area where the code emphasizes the issue of some innovations, plumbing, electrical, concrete material, formwork, and what have you. At the state level, in Lagos State, for instance, some regulations, even in Ogun, our neighbor, some regulations also support the innovations. I know if you do some designs, those that will vet your design, because some of them may not be used to that design. They will raise queries, but you now need more time to convince them this is exactly what I mean. For instance, in Lagos State, if you design a building, even a facility like this station, the typical reviewer will still be expecting you to show where you're going to put what we call generator house. In fact, they will insist that you should put. But they are thinking that I've been designed to have an alternative power using a generator. My alternative power could be solar. So the best you can ask me is to say, where will I put the panels? And if I'm going to have a concrete roof, if I can have a roof galvanizing sheet, I can decide to put my my solar panel on the roof. Or if you don't show it at all, and I say I'm going to share the panel of my neighbor, the regulator, the reviewer, government architect will say no. So I could even decide not to have alternative as an option. I could just say I'm going to rely on what public supply and inverter gives me. But they can argue that no, your building is big. But for wastewater, the one you call sewage, if the building is big, they want to insist that you should have. But I could also decide to do what they call biogester. I don't need to have a plant. I just have something small. So those are the things we're convincing the reviewer. But we'll have note, this reviewer, this developer is not using the regular or the portable, or the known facility.
Okay.
He's using a portable, a new technology. I think they are beginning to welcome that. In fact, the power supply issue, I don't like, but it's even part of it. I don't like, because even the power generator house, as you say, chop your land. Is it part of your land?
You could have used that land for something else.
I don't like to, when you finish a building, you don't have a small space for
there's no parking, you can have recreation.
You need to see some buildings in highbrow Ikoyi and look at where they are located for power supply. It eats into your land, maybe because of my own background. Why should I use, some of them could be as high as 3%. 3% is big for me. You know, a very big generator. In fact, you'll be wondering why, as if they want to generate for not only their own facility, for the whole street. So there are innovations that government itself is embracing, but the laws and regulations support that. What we should now look at is in the implementation of those components of the building code and the regulations.
Okay.
How are the stakeholders, the designers, and the reviewer, the regulators in government, are they welcoming it? Are they adapting into it?
Does data play any role here in this discussion today? Because again, we've talked about the fact that if you do not know about a thing, then there's going to be a problem implementing it. So what role does data play in this issue?
Data should play a substantial role.
You've used should, so I'm waiting for you to say otherwise.
But we still don't have substantial data. For example, the issues that are raised now about buildings or facilities not having, let's say housing, not having a spot to say this is where I'm going to put our power supply. We should now say in the last 3 years, how many buildings have alternative power supply, but not by having a generator, where a land is denoted to say generator house, water supply house. Where can we have underground? I remember there was a design we were bringing up 9-10 years ago. The developer somewhere in VI, his idea was that, but that's also innovation, that I know I will fail the parking if I use this space. Will government allow me to do parking, that's the name I'm trying to remember, electronic parking, where is a machine that will move, immediately I leave my car, a machine moves into packets of places. So not on the floor, not on the surface.
Usually suspended,
suspended. So we have to now, first of all, meet the Ministry of Transport. We took them to the site. This is our land. If you put these buildings there, what we have will not be enough to meet the parking, and they accepted. But the developer just to bring in the technology, to maintain the technology. The government said, we are ready, we will approve. We will approve, just convince us that, and they told the condition is that if we give you approval with this technology, Don't come back 2 years time and say don't use what looks like a 419. So you got this approval. You got this approval then because so you must
implement.
You must implement it. So those are innovation. Government is ready, but you need to convince them because they are new things. They are new things really.
Right. So let's look at education and capacity building. Now for students, architecture and engineering students, what skills do you think they need to focus on for future industry demands?
That's what they call challenging the status quo. I mean, you are only training this then. How do you challenge the status quo? But you will also remind them there's a limitation to challenging the status quo. For instance, you cannot say, why should we take water? Some people say, when you are eating, take water. Or some people say, no, me, I will wait. But don't say, me, I won't take water at all. Let me test that status quo. Or the belief or this lifestyle of taking, don't take water. If you are not fasting, now you sabi, maybe don't take water for 2 days. So the summary is that there are some status quo, let them be. I mean, the theory of when you throw something, it comes down. But the innovation strategy is now that there are some ways of doing things that we can improve upon. So for the people in the design field, architecture, engineering, the students first of all need to understand the basics. Why is this happening? We call it first principles. Why this? If you understand why this, then you can bring in your innovations. And now we're talking of regulation. You must now understand what does the laws, regulations, now policy, laws, regulation, standards, codes, they are all, they derive from each other. What does it say about this? So that when I say I have an innovation, is it acceptable? The practicability, safety, health, cost saving. Those are the things anybody that want to do innovations should look at. For instance, at the end of the day, you're going to do what we call patent. It's not because it becomes your own. Not that somebody's ideas, you are advancing it, you are saying it's your own. I mean, those are legal matter. But really, for young minds, the thinking should be unlimited. But they must now look at, I say it again, is it permissible or permitted? Would the law allow me?
Allow us to stay.
Is it a right thought process? Have I tested it? Have you gone to the laboratory to test it? Have you practicalized it on ground? You know, some ideas will flow, and within 1 year, whatever you have, you can't sustain it. But you know, we say, don't be dare to fail. In other words, because it's an innovation, don't bother. If you fail again, you can always
try again.
Try.
So what role does community engagement or stakeholders engagement play when we talk about innovative practices? Because if you take, for example, new sites, new locations, and then usually there are locals in such places, and so must they be part of the process when new ideas or new innovations are coming up in the build sector?
Certainly, they have to be. Otherwise, that innovation will not fly. To all extents. For instance, when Lagos started the greening project, 2007, if I'm trying to remember, 2008, because somebody somewhere on a street has been told that every plant, particularly palms or the one you call a masquerade tree, Ashoka, this Ashoka is in your front too. You must protect it. I remember when somebody was going to park by the side of that tree. Don't park there. I don't want Fashola Wahala. you know the meaning of that.
Right.
He's been told that government will believe you didn't protect that plant. That is why he died. So if you are bringing in innovation on that element of greening Lagos again, or regreening or improving on the greening, you must get the buy-in of the communities. They are the ones that will make it easy. You know, even the greening program, people said, is the governor Guru Maharaj? Why is he thinking?
Why is it going along that path?
But because people are engaged, we need to plant more, we need to have more greens. If you're going to have more grass surface and shrubs, you must You must get them along. If you need them to do a better way of deflooding Lagos, for instance, the communities, they are critical. We call them for critical key players. All of us are stakeholders, but the community as a group, the CDCs, the CDAs are also very critical. Otherwise, they won't support you. They will just say your English is too much. But if you convince them, you take them along over those period, they will certainly buy into it, and success will be recorded faster and better.
All right. You're a critical stakeholder in this sector. So what are some of the challenges that might hinder the full acceptance of these innovative practices, some that you have seen, and how can they be tackled?
Okay, the first one, we don't have continuity of programs and projects. Communities are ready when we tell them. But after the meeting, they will say, it's government. It's government, it's you. Let's see what will happen. So when a government is off, another government's coming, they most time we don't see continuity. And, you know, for those communities, they need to trust. Because usually some innovations are sold by government. They need to trust the seller of those ideas. Usually it's government or federal, local, and state. There should be continuity of thoughts process. When community knows that they will benefit more, in some instances, government are not, the individuals, the stakeholders, the communities, need more conviction. Again, I was at a meeting on Thursday with the community in Obalende in Lagos. And it's about government project. And we told them, don't worry, the governor still has 2.5 years to spend. And I believe that project will be accomplished. Okay. And they said in Yoruba, Ale Wibe. We say, you said this, you said so. And I said, don't worry, he has 2.5 years. I think he will deliver. Because they need to be convinced why they should embrace. I mean, these are Yalojas. And the chairman of Yaloja and the chairman of a community development association. They were convinced. They said, okay, we'll support. So imagine if we didn't go to them. We've had something. So they mean it. They mean it. These are the drawings. They mean it. So these are the kind of things the stakeholder want to see. You know.
So how much should those in your sector, how much should they now be preaching about resilient infrastructure, especially for changing climate? We're daily dealing with climate issues. Lagos is a land of water. And so how are we prepared to ensure that, you know, we have flood-resistant designs, stormwater management, buildings or facilities in the build sector?
I think we're embracing it. We were involved in a work for our state, the climate change issue, some years back. Even those who went to school, who are professionals, for instance, the easiest one, the one you will understand, we said, why do you want to slab, in other words, put concrete on the entire surface that is not built on in your plot? So you are an architect, you are a town planner, you are a civil engineer. Let's go to your house or homes. Let's see how you have adapted. That's the beginning.
Everywhere is on bricks.
I preach that because the regulation is that leave minimum of 10% of your floor area in your house green. Okay. Don't concrete it. Now, even if you want to concrete, they will put concrete now. You know that. They will now put what we call impermeable, let me just say line, thick nylon, and now put the concrete on it for resilience, for city sustainability. Even if you put paved stones without a substance that is permeable, is even good. Water can percolate through those spaces. Now, because they don't want to see any grass growing, any growing, they're now pounding it. So they are happy every day when it rains. Every storm water drains out of their property. So why can't you embrace that? Have some gardens, have some small spots in your area. So those are part of thinking resilience. Right. If on a street you have 30 plots or 40 plots, and they're able to retain 30% of the water that should come to the public drain in their compound, and it's soaked after the rain, it reduces what flows into the drainage. For instance, Odoyalaro Canal in Ikeja. It reduces what flows into it, and by the time it gets to or Jota end to discharge continuously into Lagos Lagoon. What gets to Lagos Lagoon get reduced.
Smaller,
And then in that corridor alone, you have reduced the instances of a flood. And all of us in Lagos are better. Not that when it rains heavily, within 1 hour you are watching. Let me know how to drive. You know. So let's embrace those ones as professionals. I mean, that's the minutest one I can cite. People now know that when your building is well aerated, you don't need your fan, you don't need your AC. If you put off your fan in this era of Band-A, Band-B, and your AC, it makes sense. You know, you are cutting cost. And then when the building is properly designed, there's natural light, then you don't need to put on your light until later in the day. So those are things that people have been thinking about. Even those who are not technical people, they know. And there are better ways to do it. Every time we sit with the designer, all of us, and say, no, do it this way, do it this way. You know, I think we can get there.
Oh, yes, we can. Okay. We thank you very much, Dr. Moses Okunleye, Managing Director, MOA Planners Limited, and he has spoken on implementing innovative practices in the built sector. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for coming.
The conversation continues right after. Stay with us.